Well, Paul, thank you so much for helping with my project. I was wondering if we could start off by maybe you saying a little bit about yourself.
Oh, I don't know what I should be saying about myself. It's I got uh, Paul van der Ven, Belgian. You know, traveled the world, seen a lot, mostly because of my job. So I'm working for Chevron. Had the opportunity to actually do a lot of different things for the company, from R&D in engine coolants to marketing in Southeast Asia or in Asia in general to product line management across the world. And then, had the opportunity to live and work in New York State, Singapore, and Houston, where we met, on the EBIS project. So that's now completed. It's mutated into what we called CBIS. And as soon as that was done, transformation was also finalized, which meant for me that after 7 years of Houston, back to Belgium and also back to a new job. So been in Belgium now for about 3 months. Still getting used to the cold, but it's getting better every day. So I don't know. I'm a chemist by background. Have a wonderful family. Got a wife. Got two daughters. Both of them are married, and both of them both of the couples are expecting their first baby this year. So I'll be a grandfather twice this year within probably a 2 or 3 week period. It's going to be exciting.
Yeah, that is awesome. And a couple of things I know about you that might be worth mentioning too is you're an avid runner and you like sailing.
I love sailing. I don't do enough of it. I used to sail a lot in Singapore, things like that. So that was great fun. I don't consider myself an avid runner. I just like to run. It's easy, and I still run every other day here. It's a little hard trying to find, and in this case, working my way through mud and all other things. But I do still run. Did one marathon in my life. That's off my bucket list, so that's done. Um, but yeah, particularly enjoyed running in Houston. The half marathons in Houston were absolutely wonderful to do. So just had a lot of fun doing it.
Do
And
do
I'm
you?
happy I actually got you into some of those too.
Oh, exactly. Yeah, we went to the half marathon last year, the Houston half marathon, and it was really neat. My son was about an hour ahead of me, which I know I was a really slow runner, right? So I'm ready to like lay down, take a break, and he's ready to go. So
No, I know. Yeah, because of health issues, I was actually at that time undergoing chemo for prostate cancer. I wasn't able to run the Houston half, but I finished that and my radiation on January the 15th, and on the 19th, I actually ran the Houston Aramco half marathon. So
wow.
a lot slower than usual, but had a great friend come down, a couple great friends from ours that we had from a previous stint we did in the US came down, and she actually ran with me the whole time. So it was probably the most powerful half marathon, most emotionally fulfilling half marathon I ever ran. And it was my slowest ever. So it's not about the time, it's about the people you run it with, and how you run it. So very,
Yeah,
very proud of that one.
when we ran the half marathon, I guess it wasn't last year, it was the year before last. Last year doesn't
Yeah,
count.
yeah.
2020 is like it didn't exist.
Yeah, no, but it was last season. Let's call it last season. It was October, right? You did the October one. The yellow, I do have the yellow shirt, by the way.
Oh, yes. But I saw a couple of friends, not my friends, but they were friends with each other, I presume. One was dressed like a turtle, another one was dressed like a rabbit. I thought that was so cute.
It's that is a fun half marathon. The Houston half. I'll give it a big shout out here. It's the first half I ran in Houston. It's still the one that's you know, as a run or about organizational and fun and things like that. It's my favorite by far.
Do you think you might come to Houston some October just to run it for the heck of it?
If I can swing it and we can have a business meeting, and I probably will do my best to come by and run it with you.
Uh,
Absolutely.
that'd be awesome. Yeah,
Mhm.
I've been running 3 miles 3 days a week, and I last week was the first time in I don't remember how long that I've actually did less than 10 minutes per mile. I mean, it was close. It's like
Good.
9:55, but normally I'm like 11 and a half. So
Yeah. Oh, I can't do a 10-minute mile anymore. With everything that I've gone through so far, it's a little slower, but that's okay. It's about the running, about the journey. It's not the time, right? Like I said before, and I still enjoy it. So I was out here yesterday. There was the sun out. It was cold, but the sun was out, and you know, it's a good way, to spend an hour and be active and just enjoy everything around you.
um, I mean, so like several things. One, you're a chemist, so you're scientifically minded. Two is you're a social person. The running and the sailing and just family and all that. And three, on the EBIS project, you really had to think about the future and how activities that they build on themselves to actually come together to allow for you to achieve something in the future. Uh, so I think the combination of those things gives you a lot of insight, maybe into the topic of today, which is kind of like the future of humanity in context of us going into space and specifically the moon. I was wondering if you thought that was true.
I'm not sure if I'm the most qualified person. I think I do think about it. Just like anybody else. I am a scientist. I don't think that makes me particularly better suited than some other people to talk about the future. I have an analytical mind, yes. The social aspect we can debate. I've always thought I was an introvert. I think I changed by getting older. Um, you know, I think thinking about the future, I think we all need to do that, or we all do that to a certain extent. I've been lucky enough, I've been in R&D, which is about the future and thinking about what's next. What can we do with, whatever the project, the products, we're actually dealing with. That applies to, my work in finished product R&D. Marketing and product line management is much closer. So that's much more tactical, much more immediate. But like you said, you think about EBIS, it's sort of a little bit of both, right? So I'm not really sure, I'm, so ideally suited. I think we all have our opinions. I am, a child of Star Trek. That's the era I was raised in. So I'm a science fiction fan, not a fanatic, but a fan. I prefer Asimov over, Heinlein, for instance. I've enjoyed reading Peter Weir. I enjoy, thinking about world building. I enjoy thinking about, what we can achieve as people, as humans. I have no specific memories of, moon landing, but I grew up when that was happening. So yeah, and I lived in Houston, and I did go visit NASA a couple of times. So.
Um, whenever I was in middle school in like the 1980s,
Mhm.
and we went to go visit NASA. They didn't have Space Center Houston at the time. You would actually walk around the campus just like the regular employees. No security check, no nothing. The exhibits were actually in the regular office buildings, and they would like set up a corner or maybe a room or two And you would actually walk around the real office buildings and labs and everything to go see the exhibits. You ate in the cafeteria with the astronauts and with the engineers
Wow.
and with
Yeah.
the business people. It was quite a different time. It felt so real, then, as opposed to when you create like this center that's just for visitors. It kind
Mhm.
of gives a little bit of a Disney World quality to it, in my opinion.
No, I agree with that. I think it's probably even less because, I've done it as a tourist a couple of times. Every time we had visitors, it's like, oh, we have to go do NASA, right? Because what else would you do in Houston, even though it's a beautiful city and I really enjoyed living there. Um, and yeah, it's especially the first time it actually left me a little disappointed because I expected, all this technology and all this great new things and explanations and stuff like that. And like you said, it's a little bit more like, yeah, a tram ride in Disney and not even a very good one at that. But I did have the opportunity, earlier, I think it was late last year or whatever, to actually go and revisit it, but as a VIP guest. One of the people on my team, actually had relationships and could get us in. So we had the opportunity to go and then actually go onto the floor, where the module is and where the new equipment is, things like that, and get more of an insight. We actually got to go to the control room, or the place where you can look at the control room for the ISS, where they just finished a spacewalk, and you saw the family of the astronauts, standing in front of the screens communicating, which was very, very powerful. So that was a completely different experience, and that's one I'll always cherish. That was very, very special. It was being so close to what's actually going on there. Nothing like what you did in high school or middle school, but a lot closer than what most people, I think, can get when they go to visit NASA. Also brings it home a lot more, right? If you stand there and you see the astronaut real life coming back from their spacewalk, getting out of their suits, and you see their families there communicating with them, and it's sort of like, this is real. This is what we're currently doing. It sort of makes the fact that the flag still hangs there, every time, as long as there's an American in space, the flag, I think, over the building flies high. It's sort of like, yeah, this is what it actually means. It's much more than just a symbol. No, it's a true life activity, and you can't think, or at least I think back when I was like, 12 years old, and like, yeah, this is what I want to do, right? And all of a sudden I regress back to that age, and I'm like, God, I wish I was there.
Do you know what caused you to not go that direction? I mean, um, uh, uh, what 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 made you have the career that you had versus maybe one that was space related?
I don't know. That's actually a really good question, and I haven't really thought about that one too much. But you grow up, right? And everybody wants to be a fireman or a fighter pilot or an astronaut or whatever. So you sort of get through that, and um, you sort of park those dreams a little bit because you're like, oh, they're far too far fetched. I'm very blue collar background. Um, I have a very classical education. So I studied Latin and Greek in high school, to then go into chemistry, of all things. And so over time, the enthusiasm doesn't fade, but sort of reality sets in, unfortunately, and you sort of lose that childish sense of opportunity and possibility, right? And I do have that, and I'm very, very much aware that that is probably not my best trait characteristic necessarily. I don't mean to say that it's bad necessarily either, but it's sort of, yeah, you lose that sense of anything's possible for me, and you sort of go back and you say, okay, what's real, what's realistic, what can I do? And you sort of tend to slide into a little bit more conventional actions and activities.
And
So
that's
yeah, my bad. Because when I was the right age, the first Belgian had actually just been to space, right? So it's I could have been there.
but I think that's a very interesting thing to explore about anything's possible and pushing the limits versus doing what's practical, and kind of um, w- w- what's natural maybe would be another way. I feel like as a society as a whole, we've kind of constantly are there's a tug of war between those two types of things, and we we sometimes talk about what's possible, and there seems to be a lot of energy in that direction. But then as a society, we keep regressing back to, what's practical, and the, the 5% improvement as opposed to the transformation that changes everything. And I, what do you think it would take for us as individuals and society to kind of stay in that what's possible mode? I mean, like, what would it take?
I'm not good. I don't think it will take a complete change of mind or whatever, but there's there's a couple of things I can think of, right? One of the things, definitely, you have to have some inspired leadership. Somebody who can paint that picture, the visionary. The Steve Jobs of space, maybe call it that. And it needs to be, but it needs to be more. It shouldn't just be business, right? But you need to have that. You need to have that sort of that vision sort of flows down onto people, and people feel that. There's also the fact that sometimes we just need to reflect on ourselves, look in the mirror a little bit, and say, because there is this is a time where a lot of people think about gloom and doom a lot, and sort of forget the possibilities. So it is also a personal journey to try and continue to see not just what's bad, but also what's good in everything, and what is possible in everything. And that's a personal journey. But I feel like that seems to be getting more and more difficult as we get more and more information thrown at us. It seems to be a lot more difficult to sort of get into that state of, this is what I dream about. Let's go after it. Let's just try this out. Expectations are also different. It's you got to have some the bare minimum, which takes up a lot of time, or a lot more time. There's all the social woes and issues. Um, I think those things really prevent us from doing that. So you really have to dig deep into yourself and trying to find that optimism again. So like, we're all supposed to be rational, clear thinking, individuals with logical minds, trying to, do as much as we can, make as much, um, yeah, make money, take care of everybody, make sure our children have a good time, and things like that. And those are practical concerns, and they sort of overtake some of the excitement that you once felt or you once had. And don't lose that, that sense of wonder. And I still get it sometimes, right? And then when I look at you and I see the moon in the background, it's sort of like it comes back. It really does flood back. When I'm standing in NASA and I'm seeing these guys come in, it's sort of like, yeah, it still comes back. When I read a good science fiction novel, it still comes back. It's sort of like But maybe maybe I need to find the courage too. Maybe we all lack a little bit of courage. It's because it is risk, right? There's a lot of risk associated with it. We have so many immediate problems. We have so many things that we need to take care of as a person, as a country, as a people. That this is. I think it sort of gets lost. It's like when a corporation tries to cut its budget, the first thing goes is travel and R&D. And we need to get away from that mode. We almost need to say, okay, we want to have some of these visionary things and actually do something about it, not just talk about it. But that's going to take, a lot of courage, because not necessarily the most popular answer.
Yeah, it's kind of
I don't know
interesting.
whether that answered your question. It's just.
I know it definitely helps. It's definitely a key step towards finding an answer. It's interesting you talk about the information flows and the need to make quick decisions and kind of being overwhelmed with the concerns of the day, that we don't have any space for wonder and for thinking about the future and things like that. And I just think that's kind of so interesting. It's almost like we need to carve out more space where we're really bored. We need more bored people.
That's one way of putting it. But I do think that we need to carve out more space to sort of just, let your mind run free. We don't really do that. I tried to do that. I've taken a deliberate steps, right? Like, okay, these are the times in the days I work, and I have time when I say this is when I'm not going to worry about that anymore. Or I'm not going to worry about it. I'm going to be bored. And in those times, that's when you can sort of, let your mind go free. I don't work in an industry, right, that is, I don't work in for Alphabet or whatever, where you can just go and do stuff. Love to do things like that, because that's where you have these opportunities. I work in a very practical industry with day-to-day businesses and solutions. So yeah, taking that time off and making that time to sort of think beyond, I think, is critical. And I think also as a whole, as a community, as humanity, we need to do that, and we need to do that more. We need to sort of carve out a little bit of that time and say, you know what, this is where the visionary comes back in, right? Wouldn't it be great? Shouldn't we be doing this, right? And then say, okay, we will set that time apart, and we'll protect it. If I compare it practically to some of my previous work, it's a little bit like when you do R&D, you can do strategic R&D, tactical, practical, and immediate ad hoc, right? It's very hard, or you need to really have a really good or good companies take the time and the effort to make sure and secure that they have enough of the strategic stuff, the long range stuff, right? You don't have to do it 30% of the time. It's not about numbers. It's just, but you need to dedicate specific time, and you say, this is sacred. This is what we need. We need to do this because this will make us grow as a whole, whether it's as a company, as humanity, or whatever. But we need to safeguard a little bit of that time, a little bit of that opportunity, to just go wild and do these crazy things and get out there, see what's out there, and continue to push the boundaries. And that to me is, I get excited talking about it. I wish I could be doing it right now. I'm sorry. It's just, I shouldn't say sorry, but that's just how I get when I start thinking and talking about that. Just so many great opportunities out there. We should be going after.
And talking about time, do you have more time? Because I know I only put this on the calendar for 30 minutes.
I've got another 15 minutes.
Okay. So, that's kind of an interesting point about how we kind of schedule everything and what have you. I was thinking about the astronauts. Their schedules are so packed down to like the minute. We're trying to get the most value out of having the astronaut on the moon in space that we plan every single second of their time. But I wonder how much we're missing out on because we don't give them a chance just to absorb and respond to their environment.
Uh, yeah, who knows, right? It's the- time's valuable, especially out there. So it has to, it has to result into something and lead into something. And yeah, it reminds me, I don't know, oh, what's the movie about the God, I forget the name now. I saw it the other day. It's about the female astronaut who gets into space and then comes back to Earth and then sort of loses it.
Gravity, I think, right?
No, it's not Gravity.
Oh,
It's with Natalie Portman. But she's out there, and one of the last things she does, it's in the introduction scene, is just being out there at the space station, looking down at Earth, and just absorbing, and seeing and just wondering and enjoying that moment. So I'm pretty sure that their schedules are extremely full and they're doing a lot of things. But I do hope and I feel and I think, they have these moments, that time to sort of, let their mind go and just enjoy, the view. Just look at it and just take it all in and just wonder, what's the next thing that we're gonna do. So yeah, wouldn't it be great? I'd love to do it one time. Not gonna happen in my lifetime, but yeah,
I think it
it's
might actually. SpaceX and their Starship that they're developing. In fact, they're supposed to be doing a test of it today that they're building
mhm,
down here in Boca Chica, Texas, near Brownsville.
mhm.
They're talking about having point-to-point Earth travel on this rocket that they'll be able to fly 3 times a day, and you can make it from Belgium to Houston in like 20 minutes.
Yeah, no, yeah, okay, yeah, no, yeah, it's I might still see it. Yeah, not holding my breath, but I'm hoping for it.
I just
It's
imagine you don't even need to get a hotel. You just fly here in the morning, do the half marathon, fly back.
yeah, somehow I don't think it'll work. Yeah, just shoot it up and let the Earth turn, and then just come back down. It's an interesting concept, right? It's like use what's available to make it much more efficient. No, no, I know, but it's I think it's gonna come. I think there's only one way, right? There's hiccups and there's times and there's difficulties, and like I said, the it takes the vision, right? The ability, the audaciousness to dream about all of those things. But you can't turn that back. There's footsteps on the moon. You can't turn that back. People want to go back, right? There is always going to be that part of the population that are going to say, you know what, I want to make that next step no matter what it takes. So, and I'm, you know, all the way, I'm there, right? I'm there. I think we should. I think it's just, it's part of the human story, I think.
And the two wealthiest individuals on the globe both have a passion for space and have space companies.
Hmm.
Um, that does this make you more or less hopeful for the future?
I'm ambivalent about it because they are the two of the most wealthiest people. They have a passion for space, right? I'm sure they're also looking at that as, how can we profit from this? Which is, I'm not denying the economic reality, uh, but there's got to be more than that, right? So it's this, yeah, I'm a little bit torn between that and just the pure, wonder of what an Apollo could do, and just look at some of those things, and what I'm seeing is a program that was extremely expensive, right? Government sponsored and whatever, but the amount of value it brought back later in people, children getting involved, getting interested in the technology, which then led to advancements and things like that, is priceless, right? People often tend to forget that. They only see, oh, this is what it's going to cost me now. I have to pay taxes for what? No way. But they don't see that in 20, 30 years, right? That's when the dividends get paid, and they are enormous.
Yeah, I mean, they can be. It's kind of interesting thinking about NASA at the time of Apollo, when those computers that they had and the communication technology was like cutting edge, like it didn't exist before. And now you go to look at mission control and they're using 20-year-old computers. Your iPhone is probably more powerful than some of those terminals that they're using. And it really challenges this notion that we're like pushing the envelope through our space program when we're using kind of not the last generation, not even the last generation, but several generations back in terms of some of the systems that we have.
It's this is again, this is where it's unfortunate, right? It's like, oh, we're in a bind. What do we cut? Well, let's cut that because that's for the future. So, and that's why I say that's what we need to develop, this passion to safeguard. That to safeguard. I know it sounds cliche, safeguard the dream, right? But safeguard the vision to make sure that no, we're committed to this, right? We, we can't be restricted. I don't accept it that we have to be restricted. We need to get out there. We need to redo this. We need to go further. I think it's something that we owe our children, our grandchildren, and generations to come. That it would be really sad if they would look back and say, well, yeah, we're still here because at that time they didn't have the courage. We need to find that courage again, and get out there. But yeah, there's a lot. It's just not practical. Let's face it, right? There's no practical reason to go to the moon. It's a dead piece of rock. Who knows? There might be something there, might not be something there, but it's basically a dead piece of rock, which is very difficult to get to. And once you're there, there's really not that much that you can do. It's the most hostile environment you can imagine. But it's a step, right? It's that when you go out on the street, it's that first step, and then where will it take you? I don't know, but there's a lot out there.
Yeah, and you touched on something very important. If you're sold on the journey, taking that first step is natural and makes sense. But if you're skeptical about the journey, then you really can't justify the first step. So there's some people that see the future of humanity as branching out beyond the Earth into the rest of the solar system and maybe even further. And going to the moon is, like you said, taking that first step, which makes sense. But if you're not sold on that journey, like you said, there's no practical reason to go to the moon. It's like that it doesn't make sense.
Yeah, I totally agree. It reminds me of a story I read. I'm gonna plagiarize somebody and probably not do it justice, and I don't even know who wrote it, but it just came to mind now. About a guy sitting talking about taking his family and a whole bunch of other people on a journey away from the Earth, far away, unknown distances or unknown direction. Who knows where they're going to end up? And he's talking to his bartender about it, and the bartender says, "How can you do that? This is crazy. Why would you do that? You shouldn't do that. It's way too dangerous. You don't know what you're risking, and you're taking your kids too." And then at the end of the story, the nice thing is actually happens that the bartender is sitting in a bar on the moon. So that sort of brings that back, right? It's like, for us, it's like normal, right? But I do feel that, we have this tendency, we have this inane curiosity, or I still have this inane, I want to know, right? I want to see, I want to be there. I would love to be at the forefront, which brings me back to what you said. Why aren't you? Maybe I'm just not courageous enough. But that doesn't mean I can't be passionate about it still.
Absolutely, and I actually know the author of that story, Robert
Oh, okay.
Heinlein. Robert Heinlein.
Is it
Uh,
Heinlein?
it
Yeah.
is. I don't remember the title of the story, but I was talking to somebody almost a year ago today, and they had mentioned that story as well. So did some research that time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I probably have it in my library then somewhere, because yeah, he's also one of the authors I like to read. So yeah, no, it's this is an exciting time. I do hope that really that they're going back. I saw the model of the space station that they're gonna fly, around the moon. And yeah, it's exciting. That was exciting. That was like, I can't wait for that to happen.
And so many countries are participating in it. Canada's building a robotic arm. Japan is creating a rover for the astronauts to go on, and Europe is you're building some modules for that. And,
Yeah, no, it's if you look at it, it's and the ISS is a good example of that, right? Um, it's a way, it's the way, probably the best way to sort of also nurture that international partnership and that humanity as a global thing, not as a set of nations or individuals or nationalities, even though it's still proudly presented and things like that. But it's no longer something that's um, individual. If you look at the big companies, they're also not, it's not individuals, right? They're global conglomerates that are active in that. This is something that where everybody needs to be, everybody needs to be a part of it. And I know we have a very polarized society and things like that. So this is one of those things that hopefully we can all agree on that. Yeah, this is a good thing for humanity. So it's a great opportunity. And we should make the most of it. We should really build that international trust and get that cooperation going. Trade and anything else probably won't work. This one will. This is, math's the same in any language, right? Math's a universal language across.
But
So
the units are different.
that's because you guys still don't want to accommodate. Although for the space program, you do accommodate, right? Because you use SI units for that.
Exactly. Yeah. Of course, there was one calculation I remember back in like the 90s that resulted in a failure for a
Yeah,
probe to Mars.
$500 million on a probe to Mars that got haywire because they used the wrong units.
How much does it cost the U.S. not switching to metric? $500 million. I like it.
That's just one instance.
Yeah. Much higher. It's billions and trillions.
I actually used that once as a safety moment for the group when we talk about tools and technology and things like that. How small issues can create huge losses and errors, and that's one of the top 5. So
I could believe it. It's yeah.
No, but still, it's it's got when you look at it, really, except for the fact that it's not necessarily going to generate any immediate profits or whatever, there's nothing but upsides to space exploration. And who know, hopefully we'll go the Star Trek way, right? Which is about the most optimistic view you can have of what could happen if we would all be successful. But Yeah, that's, I like that. I like the optimistic view, rather than all the some of the dystopian views about the future.
And that's kind of one of the things back in the 60s, 70s, and 80s. Star Trek, I would say, was the most popular sci-fi sort of experience in the US. And that now there's so many competing different sci-fi things that there's really nothing that sticks out as being that common vision. It feels like we might have lost something with that as well.
Yeah, but it's also, Nathan, I think because in the 60s, right? 60s, 70s, when Star Trek started, which was not a huge success at the beginning, as you know. But all the rest is like you were in the space race, right? And so there was a lot of maybe not optimism, but interest in space and going there and technology. And you had all these, what there are now great B movies, right, about space and people out there, and just a lot of fun. Star Trek was the first one to be really that positive and optimistic about the future of humanity, right? And this United Federation and things like that. And I've always sort of, it stuck with me. I grew up at the right time. I watched those things at the right time. For that to sort of be, etched into my brain as if we do this thing called space exploration, that's where it will logically end. Not sure that that's actually the truth, but that's still what I believe deep in my heart.
Yeah, I hope so. I hope it's not interplanetary conflict. So, well, Paul, I really appreciate the time, and I'd love to come visit you in Belgium whenever our bubbles can be bigger.
Well, if you do come, if you, when this thing blows over, and it will, you're more than welcome. I would love to, have you over here, take you out for a beer, and maybe talk a little bit more about this.
That'd be awesome. Well,
And there is the 10 miles of Antwerp, which I think you would love. It's a 10-mile race. So
okay, what time of year is it?
it's normally April, so it probably won't happen this year, but it will happen next year.
April 2022.
Yeah.
10 miles of Antwerp.
10 miles of Antwerp.
Excellent. I have to put on my calendar. Keep April free.
Yeah, do that.
Well, thank you so much, Paul. You have a good rest of your day, and if you come to Houston, likewise, let me know.
I most certainly will. It's not going to be the first 6 months, but I do plan to be over there at some time, hopefully later this year. So take care.
Okay. Have a good rest of your day.
Thanks for talking to me. Appreciate it. It's been a lot of fun. I really enjoyed it.
Well, it's been fun for me too. And it's so good to reconnect.
It is. Okay. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye.